To many educators, multicultural education is not implemented thoroughly in their instruction simply due to the fact that it is not understood. What makes multicultural education so important, and what strategies do the researchers suggest educators use in their classroom? Banks and Banks define multiculturalism as a movement designed to empower all students to become knowledgeable, caring, and active citizens in a deeply troubled and ethnically polarized nation and world. Can multicultural education and culturally relevant pedagogy be used to increase student interest in social studies? Some of the different aspects of multicultural education make this approach to teaching unique by design. Banks and Banks notes the dimensions of multicultural education into 5 categories: content integration, knowledge construction process, prejudice reduction, equity pedagogy, and empowering school culture and social structure. The most noted of these 5 dimensions is equity pedagogy. Banks and Banks defines equity pedagogy as teachers' strategies and classroom environments that help students from diverse racial, ethnic, and cultural groups attain the knowledge, skills, and attitudes needed to function effectively within and help create and perpetuate a just, humane, and democratic society. Equity pedagogy, or culturally relevant pedagogy, as Brown Jeffy describes it, is a way for schools to acknowledge the home community, culture of the students, and through sensitivity to cultural nuances, integrate these cultural experiences, values, and understandings into the teaching and learning environment. Benji's described how critical pedagogy and multicultural education and culturally relevant pedagogy all build on each other to create a balanced education for students. Critical pedagogy makes it clear that the traditional model of schooling with the teacher as the infallible leader oppresses students. Multicultural education is the broad notion that educators need to integrate a wide variety of cultures and backgrounds into their instruction. Culturally relevant pedagogy takes the culture and backgrounds of students into the classroom and integrates those stories into the classroom instruction. One author in particular states specific strategies that the teacher can implement in the social studies classroom that reinforces multicultural education through instruction. Solomon provides guidelines specifically for a social studies classroom that incorporates multicultural education. These guidelines include suggestions such as the following: integrate different experiences relevant to all minorities and ethnic groups. Create optimal opportunities for learning for all students. Model and communicate the goal and function of the social studies approach to the students. Select the social studies textbook materials that meaningfully represent all learners. And understand that students' attitudes, values, histories, etc. that significantly affect civic roles and functions. Many of these strategies are suggested to be implemented with sensitivity to the students, especially when introducing literature into the unit. For example, Benji's records another researcher's opinion after he observed in a social studies classroom as follows. Mason observes a classroom and comments on how the teacher's language affects how students view the other. A basic tenet that Mason points out is avoiding the language like savages to describe Native Americans, which seem pretty obvious but is still an important point. Language like savages should instead be used to explore the context of why people referred to Native Americans in this way and critically explore the thoughts and motives of the era. There are many strategies educators can use in the classroom to incorporate multicultural education into the classroom, but do these strategies actually increase student interest in social studies? Solomon suggests a solution to student interest in social studies while implementing equity pedagogy through multiculturalism. He states, find a balance between student and teacher-led instruction. Teachers should not be the holders of the one and only truth, but at the same time, students should not be completely free to construct their own knowledge. The teacher must work between these two extremes to become an effective facilitator in the classroom. It is important for educators to find the balance between teacher-led and student-led instruction so that all learning is made meaningful for the student. This not only applies to typical content presentation, but also when implementing multicultural education into the classroom. Teachers need to know their students and their backgrounds in order to know what type of instruction to implement. The bottom line is that teachers need to know their students and make every student feel safe and welcome in their classroom. Benjis went a step further and stated, in order to ensure that all students feel safe, welcomed and accepted, and inspired to succeed in a culture of high expectations for learning, schools and classrooms must be responsive to its culture. Gloria Latson-Billing was quoted by Benjis as describing what multiculturalism meant to her in her profession. Culturally relevant teaching is teaching that integrates a student's background knowledge and prior home and community experiences into the curriculum and the teaching and learning experiences that take place in the classroom. There are 3 central tenets underpinning this pedagogy. 1. Holding high expectations for all students. 2. Assisting students in the development of cultural competence. And 3. Guiding students to develop a critical cultural consciousness. In this student-centered framework, the uniqueness of each student is not just acknowledged, but nurtured. One can conclude, therefore, that in order to be culturally responsive educators, all of these principles need to be integrated into a teacher's pedagogy to ensure that all students are getting equal and meaningful education. One such way to present content information equal to all students is by giving all students a fair chance to succeed and giving all students the tools they need in order to succeed. The vehicle that teachers can use to interest students in the content of social studies is through literature. There are many children's books available that not only interest children but also implement multiculturalism into the classroom. One of these is The Name Jar by Yang Suk Choi. Just moving to the United States from Korea, young Eun-hai is the new kid in school. She realizes her name is difficult to pronounce, so she makes a name jar and asks other kids in the class to come up with alternative names. However, one of the other students finds out her real name and shocks Eun-hai at what happens next. Another great book is Henry's Freedom Box by Ellen Levine. This more emotional story is about a slave boy living in the South and his journey to freedom as he mails himself to the North. Though this is not the conventional way to freedom, he finds that his courage can take him a long way. All of these books and many more encourage the integration of multiculturalism into the classroom and help children understand the importance of gaining basic knowledge in the different cultures around them.
When cold